and welcome to another City Sports special. It's a mixed bag of issues. I am Benjamin Nketia. My two good friends are in here with me, Yao Jamie Ta and Gabi Ofe, discussing a myriad of things. Ghana's Black Queens began their WAFCON campaign with a 2-0 defeat against Bayana of South Africa. We'll touch on that. As far as Europe is concerned, we'll talk about the FIFA Club World Cup. There's a semi-final today between Fluminense and Chelsea Football Club. Should be interesting. And then also, Manchester United apparently had been secretly negotiating a deal with Amazon for an all-access documentary. Lots of money in the bag. Last minute, Ruben Amorim found out and said, "No way, not under my watch." There's that as well. Newcastle United have completed the signing of Anthony Ni Langa Ilanga. People don't understand why he's going for 55 million. See if we can make some sense of it. If you're a basketball fan, yeah, it's eye-popping money all the time. Free agency, Paulo Banchero. Oh boy, 283 million is it? A truckload of money. Let me bring the guys into the discussion. Let's start off on a Black Queens note. Yeah, let me start off with you on this level. Ghana's Black Queens lost by 2-0. I feel like for the early exchanges in the game, a lot of us had hope that we could nick one, maybe like a close win, or maybe push the game to a draw of some sort, and then bang, all the hope was gone. I mean, for you, from your perspective, what were your takeaways from watching the Black Queens, and do you think that they can get better to be able to salvage something out of this tournament?
Yeah, they can get better. I mean, if the second half performance is anything to go by, they improved in the second half. I think in the first half they started off a little bit timid, and their passes were a lot wayward. They couldn't string passes together, also stay in possession for over a minute. They couldn't keep possession for an extensive period of time, and like I said, they were quite timid. They looked a bit jittery, particularly in front of goal. There was that one opportunity for Doris Boydua, and instead of just playing her teammate, and I believe it was Evelyn Bed who was in a better position, she decided to shoot at goal. And I remember yesterday, in the lead up to the game, we had a brief discussion, and I mentioned it as one of the areas that Ghana needs to improve on. The forwards are a little bit too eager to attempt a shot at goal, more or less like a shoot on sight kind of mentality, rather than try to build their way and find the best chance possible to be able to attempt a strike or a shot at goal. And so for me, those things were still lacking in the game that I witnessed yesterday, and that's what we need to work on moving forward. But the second half performance was better. The first half performance was a bit below par, if I can put it that way. It was a bit below par because they considered a lot of possession, they considered chances, and we were quite lucky to have considered just 2 goals in the first half. It could have been 3 in the first half, and they could have scored more. So for me, the second half performance was better, but the first half performance left a lot to be made up for, and so I expected them to do better. And moving forward, they have a good shot at beating Mali and Tanzania. That's all I can say.
Well, Gabi, you've been communicating with the officers of this team, following this team for quite a while. Two things that struck me. I listened to your interview with Aisha this morning, and she said that she didn't have much hope for the Bjorkegren era, and that looks like that's how it's playing out. On your side, will the Queen's performances have been, or will the performance in that opening game been any different if it was Hutla in charge? And do you think that the appointment of Bjorkegren at the time in which he came in makes sense to the Queens actually doing well and warming up to him enough?
Look, if you watched the Copa Queens against the Atlas Lionesses of Morocco, that's the opening game.
Yeah.
So I saw Nora Hutla on the touchline for the Copa Queens, and
it was properly dripping on the touchline,
looking very good.
You mean the money is showing? Thank you.
But easy.
The money they couldn't pay here.
Two things I picked from when I was watching coach the Copa Queens is that she had a team that was very direct. She knew the quality in that Zambian team, and realized that, look, we can't match up to what the Moroccans would do in terms of flair, in terms of let's play possession. No, we won't do that. We've got strength, we've got power. Let's hit it long. And they were relying on Banda and Kudandanji, who is the best, the expensive player when it comes to women's football. Yep. I think, and this is not to denigrate Bjorkgren or whatsoever, but I'm looking at two things: continuity on the part of, if we had Nora Hutla, because in that run, or in the lead up to the WAFCON taking place, Hutla was the one who qualified us to the WAFCON, only to miss out against the Copa Queens in the second leg of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. If she was there, I think that the team would have been in a very good place, as compared to what Bjorkgren has done. Look, and I said this, that I don't envy him at all. I'm talking about Kim Lass, because at the time he took over this job, I think we had about just a few months at the start of the WAFCON. He played a couple of friendlies. Those were AFCON bound teams, but I don't think he had all that time to actually do what he wants to do with this team. I think one smart thing he did yesterday, and I give him props for that, is that he stuck with a large chunk of the squad that played under Nora Hutla. So Evelyn Bedu started, Doris Bedua started, Portia Boachi skipper, Finlap Kondlap, the goalkeeper, also started, and a few other ladies. But look, Kim Lass came up against South Africa.
And they're beating us multiple times now.
Yesterday was they recorded their 7th win in the opening game, and they came against the Black Queens. And yesterday also was the first time they scored 2 goals in the opening game in the WAFCON. And they did it against the Black Queens. If you look at the way the Black Queens started, I don't think we fared that bad. We had 13 shots. That's one more than the South Africans. But then again, we're very, very, I don't know, we seem very lost when we get to the final third. I don't know whether if it's the occasion, because look, I did my checks. It's just about 4 players, Ben, who have been or who have played at this highest level. I'm talking about the WAFCON itself proper. 4 players in the squad that played yesterday. A lot of these girls were inexperienced. They've not played at this highest level. Probably the occasion got to them. I don't know. The coach said that, look, they could have been better. And I think if you listen to what Desiree Ellis said about Ghana, she said something about, in as much as the Black Queens lost, there were several positives to pick from. Ghana is a good side. I think I agree with her. And if there is anything that would have to work on, facing that Mali on Friday, is our finishing. Those were just the differences between us and South Africa. If you watch the South Africans, every time they got into the final third of the our box, it was just one thing: clinical, put the ball at the back of the net, and they were able to go past the Black Queen. So I am expecting that it would be a different story when we play against Mali. Mali beat Tanzania yesterday by 1-0, and I just hope that we can get one past them. As for South Africa, I think that everybody who watched that game, they're actually one of the favorites to win the tournament.
They're the defending champions, no?
Yes, they are defending champions. So you would want to put them there. And so that scoreline we saw yesterday, it could have been 3. It could have been 4 or 5. But I think the South Africans themselves didn't start so well. They went into this tournament on the back of 2 issues. One is that they lost their iconic player in Thembi Gatlana. They had some bit of funding issues and that. And later Safa came out to say that they had reached some agreements with the player and that kind of stuff. They didn't have the best of preparations. But I think what has worked for them is continuity, staying with their head coach, Desiree Ellis, who's been with the team since 2015. When did your coach come in?
Yeah.
Just some 4 months ago.
Sure.
You don't go, it won't work for you like that in football. So look, South Africa got their 3 points. The Black Queens, I just hope that they recover really well and get one past Mali, and then they can look forward to the next game against Tanzania.
Well, I just thought that the Queens look very disconnected. They looked very disorganized. Everything was just really scattergun from them. And if you look at them in comparison to South Africa, South Africans could hold the ball. I could count spells where they went close to 4 minutes without relinquishing the ball. That was just crazy to me.
Ben, if you've paid attention to the competition right from when it started on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
You could actually tell the quality. When you watch the Moroccans play, I watched Morocco, I watched Zambia, I watched Senegal.
Yeah.
Look, we were looking like as if you are now learning to play football.
Which is crazy because under Hutla, we looked like a very refined side. So I'm surprised this team has regressed that quickly in that short space of time. But that's the word on the Queens. We are in Group C. We've started out the competition with a defeat. So hopefully the Queens can get their act together and then Ghana can kick on from there. Let's move it on and let's get into the realms of transfers because that's where all the action is. Let's start off from the doorsteps of Newcastle. They don't get a lot of mention a lot of times, but yeah, why on earth would Newcastle United be spending £55 million on Anthony Elanga? It sounds crazy to a lot of people, but is it justified for you? Is it a move that you would don't call me?
No, it's not a move that don't come here. And I side with people who have their eyebrows raised when they signed. Now that they've been interested in Langa for a while, and more or less they signed him, especially for that amount of money. If it was, let's say, £30 million, no problem. But for £55 million, that's more or less like adding being £10 million away from getting a Brian Mbeumo or getting a Mohamed Kudus, who are on top of the transfer list for most teams in this transfer window. And does Elanga meet that mark of those guys that I mentioned? Not so much. And so for me, it's about the amount. The amount.
That's actually a Forest record fee received for a player.
It's the amount of money involved. I mean, that's the only bit. But if it was, let's say, 30 million, he will be a fine addition to the squad.
6 goals, 11 assists, not justified?
After just
double
one
figures
season.
In assists.
Yeah, because at
the
the end of
previous
the day,
season he did 5 goals, 9 assists, then he's done 6 and 11. So that's an upward trend at least.
That's an upward trend, but at the end of the day, you have to look at it in context. Look at the whole Nottingham Forest team. As a unit, they performed beyond expectations. And at the time, Elanga also was present. I mean, he also was part of the team. So he performed beyond expectation to a large extent. And you can make an argument that Newcastle are buying into the projection, as you rightly put out there, that you could see him developing further. But at this time, when you have Joe Willock also in the mix, you have the chap who started out on the right side, who was more or less like a remarkable story. Was it Gray? I'll get his, no, not the Margaret. The Margaret is out there. I'll get his name. I don't think you need to spend £55 million. That's my thinking, because you have more than enough cover on both sides of the pitch, and so to spend £55 million, for me, I think that's a little bit of an overspend, and it's not a priority signing. I think with Newcastle, a priority signing should have been in the centre back position, where a speedy centre back, younger centre back would have been a better signing, because
Dan Ben, Fabian Schär, Sven Botman.
Exactly. And Botman dealt with injuries last season, and none of these three guys are fast enough. Schär is old. Dan Ben is also old. yes, he's still playing very good football, but you need depth in that position, and that's why for me, they should have spent this money going in for a younger, more mobile defender, central defender, and because you'll be playing in the Champions League, and so once you have a system, the house system where he plays with these three guys at the back, you need a little bit of cover in that position, and so for me, that Elanga bid to Newcastle for £55 million, I don't commit. If it was, let's say, £30 million, like I said,
Is it Anthony Gordon you're talking about?
No, not Anthony Gordon. I'll get the name.
So far we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on X or Twitter. So on YouTube, Sulia Podcast is in the comments, and it's our good friend Baby Safu completely misbehaving. So the first comment says that Ghana didn't play bad yesterday. We hit the woodwork twice and should have at least a goal. And then
those
he comes back.
Speculative shots. You see, that's the statistics bit that we always talk about. Those were speculative shots. And it's not like they coordinated the attack that well.
They were not high percentage shots.
No, they were not high percentage shots. So that bit, statistics wise, we had the edge over South Africa. We had more corners. We had more shots.
But those were empty stats.
Yeah.
But well, anyway, he says that he misses Yao, and then he shouts out Gabi's head. That's maybe Gabi, Elanga, quick thoughts on that before we move it on.
I was surprised. Newcastle were looking to sign João Pedro from Brighton. I think they slept on the job, and Chelsea took over. I'm asking myself one question.
Just a quick one. Jacob Murphy.
Yes,
Jacob Murphy. So you have Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon on one side. You have Joe Willock and Jacob Murphy on the other side. Why do you go in for Elanga?
Exactly. So Benny brings me to that point that I thought that if they went for João Pedro, I think he brings them a lot of options in terms of a profile of player. That João Pedro's quality. Because look, I see Anthony Elanga still in the mode of probably an Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon. I don't see something extra he adds to that Newcastle attack. I mean, you need somebody who can break that defense, somebody who is very comfortable with the ball, can go past a very compact defense, can make something happen for you, more like a 10, somebody who can actually make things happen out of nothing. And I mean, it just speaks about what kind of football Eddie Howe wants to play. That sit back system, rely on players who have got insane speed and that stuff. And I think that's what Anthony brings to the Newcastle United team. Like y'all said, if you look at that Newcastle team heading into the upcoming season, I don't think they are doing the right signings, because if you're going into another season where people are expecting that it's more going to be complicated, because Newcastle are going to play in Europe. Squad depth will count. You can't go in with players who are Asian. And so I think that they need to look at that defense to bring in players who can actually step up, players who they can rely on for a very long season of football. Looking at the football in the Premier League and also in Europe. So look, let's see what the Elanga deal gives them. But I think that he just gives them what they already have.
Let me give you a few numbers or a few things for the stats junkies. They say Newcastle's pursuit of Elanga underlines just how far his stock has risen. Now, if you look at the stats according to Opta, they say he's in the 80th percentile for goal creating actions, meaning that he outperforms 80% of similar players in that key attacking measure. Now, his high percentile for shots on target also highlights not just an eye for goal, but efficiency in making goalkeepers work. He doesn't waste chances, according to what they say. You go to crosses, and they say he outperformed all Newcastle's players. So Jacob Murphy, Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon average 4.85 crosses per 90. Elanga averages 6.65 crosses per 90. You can talk about progressive carries as well. How often he moves the ball towards goal. Performed relatively better. So it looks like Newcastle have been on an analytics thing. Like they've been crunching the numbers, and the numbers tell them that, you know what, this is the guy we need to go by. So let's see how that plays out. Let me talk about another transfer real quick. Let me stay with you on this one, yeah. Liverpool Football Club. I'll come to you on that. Liverpool have rejected a bid for Darwin Núñez. So I believe it's 46 plus 4 million pounds. They say Napoli should get out with that bid, but that is not how much they are willing to take. Now, take into context that rest in peace. They've lost a striker or forward in Diego Jota. They are considering selling Nunez, considering selling Diaz as well. Just situate all that in context with them trying to sell Nunez and then rejecting this bid. Do you think that's his valuation? Do you think they should ask for more, or do you think he should probably be staying at all?
Well, I think it's a mix of a lot of things. I think the Jota conversation comes in. Another one that comes in is that probably Slot to look at the offer from Napoli and say, I don't think it's enough. In as much as it's not enough, I would still want him to be around as a squad player, because let's not forget, Liverpool would have to do a lot next season. They've brought in Julian Viet, but they'll still need some of these players who've been around for some time. Look, I think Nunez has been profligate in the last couple of seasons. He's not somebody you can actually rely on as a goal outlet. It's not somebody who can actually say that he would hit his chest and say he's giving you what 20 goals yes, in all competitions. And so I'm sure Slot has looked at that and say the offer from Napoli is not that good enough. If it's not that good enough, I think we can still have Nunez around as a squad player. If Napoli can actually come back with a proper offer, I think probably he would go. And then Liverpool can look into bring somebody who can replace him in there. Because look, he walks into that Napoli team. It's Antonio Conte. He probably be a transformed player or go on
I think he will really cook in the Serie A.
Go on to do some big things for Napoli, especially with what we've seen some players that everybody thought
and he will be playing with De Bruyne.
Exactly, was not good for their team. Scott McTominay is a perfect example. Zambo Anguissa for Fulham, we saw him; he was not good enough, but has gone on to Napoli to be a mainstay for the Italian club. So let's see what next for Napoli. If they can actually come back again, I think it would be a very good acquisition for Napoli.
Talking about Napoli, I think they've also agreed a deal for Noah Lang, the Dutch skillful winger, and so they are building a pretty decent project. If I look at the fact that they won the title, and I thought that Inter Milan and AC Milan, and as well as Juventus, would wake up from their slumber. The people who have won the title are the ones who have made
they've not been too active in the transfer market.
They've boasted their team. Yeah, how much is an acceptable offer for Nunez, and will you sell him at all if you were in Liverpool's position?
I sell him at all. If Luis Diaz leaves, then I won't sell him. If Luis Diaz leaves, then I won't sell him. If Luis Diaz stays, then I'm open to selling him. Because if Luis Diaz leaves, that means that yes, you already operating at a -1 with Diogo Jota's passing. And so what that means is it become a bit light across the front line, despite the fact that Florian Wirtz has also been added to the mix as a false 9. If you let those two guys go, Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez, that means that you let 3 guys go. And that means that you only have Cody Gakpo, Florian Wirtz, and Mohamed Salah as your frontman, and I don't think that's enough.
Still have Harvey Elliott.
Maybe
this could be a breakout season.
I think he will operate best as a more or less that Kai Havertz role, like a number 8 who normally arrives late into the box, that kind of player. And so I wouldn't necessarily put him in that frontline position. And so I don't think you should let Darwin Núñez go, especially when you're already down by a man and there's a potential for Luis Diaz to leave. If Luis Diaz leaves, then Darwin Núñez has to stay. Both cannot go. One has to stay. And if one decides to leave, no problem at all. Because of Florian Wirtz's ability to operate as a false 9. So if one leaves and one stays, it's all well and good. But you can't have a situation where both leave. That is too much of an ask for the team to be able to meet up with the demands for the upcoming season. And just a quick one on the Newcastle. I was just checking the ages. Fabian Schär is 33. Dan Ben is also 33. And their backup is Jamal Lascelles.
That's combined age of 66.
Yes, and their backup is Jamal Lascelles.
Lascelles is how much? 30?
32, 33. And on top of that, there is also...
They are pushing 100. They are pushing 100.
And there's also Emil Kraft also in the mix. as a defender. So honestly,
and he's clearly not fancied under Eddie Howe.
Yeah, and I honestly believe that they should really improve in that the department, the defensive unit. They should really improve in that department. I don't think
they should go to Chelsea. There are lots of young defenders there, but they are still.
Look at you trying to offload your deadwood to another team.
On a more serious note,
but they are still not good.
And that's why
he was good the first 6 months at Chelsea.
And that's why for me that spending 55 million for Elanga, he's 23 years old. He's 23 years old, developing player. But you have to deliver now. Yeah. And your defense is, and they are in a pretty tight situation financially.
Yep.
They don't have too much money to spend around, and so you have to prioritize. It's all about a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you prefer? Which one are you lighter? And that clearly is the defense. I mean, in the forward line, yes, you can always want to improve, but you have more than enough cover there. And so for me, the Elanga move, I don't commit.
So Anthony Elanga, not don't commit, but it looks like there's a lot going on. Let's talk about Brian Mbeumo just real quick, because it looks like the signing that was supposed to have come through the door 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, some way, somehow, has still not happened. And with United almost heading to preseason, they've only completed one signing in Mateus Cunha. That must be worrying. I mean, what's going on? I thought this was over. Looks like Brentford are still playing hardball over a transfer fee. United know that they want the player. Some way they are not getting over the line.
Yeah, and they will play hardball because at the end of the day, you have to look around what is happening. Elanga is going for £55 million. Look at Brian Mbeumo. People don't realize the guy scored 20 goals in the season in the last campaign.
I agree with you.
So if Elanga is going for 55, I mean, definitely Brian Mbeumo will get 10 more million.
You should give me double. If I'm them, I'm taking double the money.
And that's what I said about Kudus and Mbeumo.
20 goals, 7 assists.
Yes.
In almost did doubles.
Yes, in 38 games. So for me, I understand where Brentford are coming from. So Man United have to splash the cash if they really want that Brian Mbeumo. If they really want that guy, they have to splash the cash. And so I'm all for it. I mean, with Brentford taking the stance that they've taken, they are into business. They see what is going on around. They see the value the player has, and so definitely they will have to pay the premium. They will have to pay the premium. But I think with Man United, the lack of transfers is just down to their inability to offload players that they don't want. I think if they at this point they had been able to offload all 6 players who are unwanted at the club now, I think paying extra 10 million to get Brian Mbeumo wouldn't be too much of an issue. I think it's just down to the fact that they haven't been able to move players and get them off the wage bill, and that's the reason why they are playing a little bit of a tight pocket a game with Brentford.
Manchester United and transfers. Let's stay on the United tangent just a bit before we move to the preview of the Club World Cup. So United apparently were in a deal to sign a contract with Amazon worth about £10 million for an all-access behind-the-scenes action of the club. Now, apparently, the deal was almost at its concluding stages before head coach Ruben Amorim had to step in and say, I can't believe you guys are actually thinking of doing something like this behind my back. Let me take your thoughts on that, Gabby, and then I'll take y'all's thoughts on that.
What's behind the scenes to show for United?
I mean,
the broken showers and the old sinks that Ronaldo was talking about.
Well,
you know, it's a traditional club. They want to bring you into the museum of football.
Okay, that is understandable. Maybe project the history of the club more. A couple of things that have happened in the past, but I think on a more serious note, I think I'll be interested to actually see what would be in there to show. But I'm looking at another part of Ruben Amorim why he's decided to not agree with this. Probably sees this as maybe a misplaced priority. I think probably he sees that there are a lot of things they have to deal with in terms of players they'll need for the upcoming season. That has not been done. United are already looking to invest in something that he probably don't see as as a major deal. I stand to be corrected though, but I think probably that will be his frustration, and that's why he's not in line with that news on a part of that is coming from the top hierarchy. So, well, like I said, I would be interested to see what will be in that whatever stuff they have to show us. But I think Amorim is not being a happy man, especially with the lack of transfers, lack of players that have come are not coming into.
Yeah, Amorim said, are you trying to air our dirty laundry or what? What's the meaning of this?
It's pretty simple. I mean, you are at the beginning of setting up the team in your image, or shaping up the team in your image. The last thing you want is outside noise. And as Manchester United, there's been a lot of distractions from outside noise over the years, and it has played a key role in their fall off or drop off from being an elite club.
And yeah, not to cut you, Ben. And like I say, I stand to be correct. I thought these things are normally done to maybe project the success stories of team, maybe like a just ended season. Yeah. You've had a very good run. Yep. Those very things that are not open to the fans.
You know what I think? I think it's just the club strapped for cash.
Yes.
And they are finding, they are trying to find
any means to get extra
money.
cash. Look, do it with Manchester City. They did it with Man City, and it was a success because that team was because that team was a strongly bonded, strongly forged team already.
True.
And they did it, and that season Man City even won the Premier League, so it worked.
Yeah.
Arsenal, they still ended up finishing second because Arteta has built the base already. At this point, Arsenal just need a little bit of a top up in terms of the.
At that time, it was still a success season for them.
Yes,
that's why
more or less. Yes.
Do it.
Tottenham Hotspurs, they needed that bit of projection because at the end of the day, they're a solid club brand, but they needed it to enhance their reputation and their profile, particularly with the American audience, and that's where the football is trying to break through that frontier. I'm pretty sure once that frontier is conquered, FIFA will be looking at China and India. That's the next line of business. So for Tottenham Hotspur agreeing to do such a deal, fine. Arsenal's agreeing to do such a deal, fine. Man City, great, because they already have built the squad. But for Manchester United, a team that has been in a wreck,
probably had its worst season.
Yes, in a wreck for the past 2 seasons, and you're already dealing with player discontent, having issues moving on from players.
Mice evading the pitch ahead of kickoff.
Yeah, coach
leakage from the roof.
Coach not getting his desired signings yet. The fans are in arms. Now, do you want to throw in this curveball of having the manager engaging in players after games when there's this growing reputation about Amorim that he is not a people person when it comes to player relations? So that is the last thing that Man United needs. I don't know who came up with this idea, but it's a terrible idea. I want to use some other words to describe it, but we're on it, so I'll be sharing with my words. It's a very terrible decision.
Ben, when I listen to y'all speaking, I can actually see and sense the frustration. And it reminds me of. So I was just sitting reminiscing on what United have been through. At a point, I think Ruben Amorim had to take up the cost of his coaching staff. I think there was one game in the Europa League.
They had to fly because they were
all these things.
Radcliffe has slashed
austerity measures.
Some people had to be laid off, lost their job, and all these things. So look, like I said, I don't think it made sense to me. And like you have also said, it's probably a way to also make money.
Oh, it's money. Yes. I mean, it's all about business. I mean, it's all about business.
It's just shocking that a club in this kind of state will want to throw their team in that type of situation for money.
And I'm disappointed with the Ineos group because that's what the old group used to do under Ed Woodward. That's what they used to do.
They would sell anything for money.
It was all about money, money. Forgetting that the main product that brings the money
is the football.
True. So attend to the football,
and the money
will flow.
True.
Well, attend to the football, and the money will flow, and that's what Man United used to do. And it generated into success on and off the pitch, where you could sell out stadiums in the US, in Asia. They were more like rock stars. because they attended to the pitch stuff.
True.
Then the rest followed. It's like a chain reaction. Once you keep on becoming successful, the money will follow you. We are basketball heads in this studio. Golden State Warriors, 10 years ago, what was their value? $334 million.
Yep.
Now it's worth $4 billion.
Yep.
Because for 10 straight years they were making it to the playoffs consistently. They were making it to the finals consistently. They were winning championships.
Yep.
So people were flooding the arenas. People were buying merchandise.
True.
Companies will pay top dollar to associate themselves with that brand, and that's how you build value.
They made so much money, they built a new arena.
Thank you. That's how you build. That's how you make money. So attend to the on the field stuff.
Yeah.
The rest will follow. Unfortunately, the previous administrations and this present one, it looks like they are fumbling it, and they don't have an idea of what they are doing, which is very shocking, because these are top pros handling the business.
Well, Manchester United, always some kind of me. I like it. I'm happy. Our team, your team, Nimley's team.
We know where you belong.
Always up to some drama, man. Let's get to the Club World Cup and let's preview that Chelsea versus Fluminense game. So Fluminense have been the surprise package of the tournament, led by former Chelsea captain Thiago Silva. And I say it unapologetically. I think Thiago Silva has been the best centre back in the world for at least the last decade. I
agree.
From when I remember him at AC Milan,
yes.
moving on to PSG, even when he was old and withered, he probably was better than all the Chelsea centre backs they had, and still is leading his team. Amazing. He's what, 40 years? 41?
Yes, he's 41.
That's crazy.
Let me, Ben, to add to what you just said, I read something about him. I mean, his time at Chelsea, and that came from Pochettino.
Yeah.
He said that, look, at the time Thiago was 39 or 38.
He's 40 now,
Yeah, so at the time he was 38. And he said, look, he's never seen a player who is so obsessed about working out, about taking care of his health, what he consumes.
That is why he's
time conscious. And the dedication with which he's shown to football.
Such a proper
so I'm not surprised with what he's doing with Fluminense. But look, I think the team itself, they've done brilliantly to reach the final four, coming through the group stage. Before beating Inter Milan in the last 16, Al Hilal in the quarterfinals, they faced a Chelsea side that I thought would have exited the competition in the group stage, especially after losing to Flamengo. They came back in that game against Benfica. And look, I was saying that if Chelsea don't even win the Club World Cup, and they get to face the likes of, that's if they manage to go past Fluminense, and they get to face either PSG or Madrid or whoever they face, I think it shapes them well for what's to come in the Champions League, because a large chunk of these players have not played at that high level before. And if you've paid particular attention to the way Chelsea have played in this competition, then I mean, from the first day to now, I think I've seen something with mentality, something which is growing within the team. And that's been good on the part of Enzo Maresca. I said it somewhere that, look, you can't have a squad that is very inexperienced and a coach who is also inexperienced too. I think it should be a squad that is inexperienced and a coach who is probably experienced. And that would have been Luis Enrique coaching that Chelsea team, taking you back to that conversation on. And don't disrespect to what Maresca has done, but I think it's grown.
I get what you mean.
But sometimes you could actually see it in those games that, look, that Pep discipleship thing has eaten him up to the extent that he sometimes needs to liberate some of these players like Cole Palmer. Play the young chap. He likes to operate in the half spaces. You keep him playing somewhere where he doesn't. Clearly, Chelsea without Cole Palmer is not Chelsea, and that's been the story. Because you've brought in so many players who've not stepped up. All right, you've brought in João Pedro now to add Gittins to add. All these players would.
Wingers galore.
Yes, you should. I saw these graphics from Sky Sports. That is highlighting the wingers at Chelsea. That's 16 wingers. 16. Yes.
You mean you could make a whole starting unit and a bench
16 wingers
from your wingers alone?
Yes, including Sterling, who is still taking high wages. He's still on that team.
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean he went
to loan his back
at Arsenal, so
they have to find a way to offload him.
Exactly. So look,
good luck with that.
I think it's been a good run, but one thing that has benefited or has been a very good one for Chelsea is that they've made money from the Club World Cup, 61 million pounds.
They are over the moon with the Club World Cup because they had some financial issues coming in.
And that was before that game against what was the name? Palmeiras.
Yeah.
So after that, after progressing to the quarterfinals, the semis, now that money they got from the Club World Cup, that's what they actually used to pay the fine. So Chelsea have been very, very excited to be partaking in the tournament. But I think it would be a very, very good game. If you look at Chelsea's run in the entire competition, somebody would say that they've not faced the top teams. But I think they would have faced...
They were on the more favourable side of the bracket.
Yes, I think that the first top team they would have faced would have been Manchester City if they didn't get themselves kicked out by Al Hilal. So look, I think it's been a very good run from Chelsea. Fluminense would give them a very, very tough time because the Brazilians are in the tournament to actually prove a point. And they've been very happy with themselves. I'm talking about all the 4 teams that came from Brazil to participate. It should be a good watch.
It really should be a good watch. Let me give you an idea of the path that the 2 teams have taken to get here. So Chelsea started out their campaign with a defeat to Palmeiras, and some way somehow managed to go on a run. They beat Benfica. I believe that game was really tight, and then it just blew open. They beat Esperance de Tunis also by 3-0, and then they went on to beat Flamengo by 3-1, and then beat also Los Angeles FC. So that's what Chelsea have been up to in the lead up to this one. When you go to Fluminense, they played out a spirited draw with Borussia Dortmund. They dominated that game. I'm not sure how they didn't win. Beat Ulsan HD by 4-2, drew goalless with Mamelodi Sundowns, beat Inter Milan by 2-0, and then beat Al Hilal, who beat Manchester City by 2-1. So I mean, if you think that this team is this is a fluke team, you are in for a rude awakening. Now, there are a couple of absentees for Fluminense that might be worrying. Now, Juan Pablo Freitas, he has partnered Thiago Silva at the heart of defense all throughout the tournament. He picked up his second booking, and so he will be missing this particular game. But in comes Hercules. Now, Hercules is a very interesting name. He has netted twice already off the bench in the knockout stages.
Then say the guy for the Hercules movie inside enter the player.
So that's what's going on there. Now, Chelsea's Thiago Silva obviously will start in the back 3. But then their main man up front is a guy called John Arias. John Arias is the guy. So this is basically a counter-attacking
John Arias, team. I think Colombian.
Yeah. Colombian. Counter-attacking team for most part. Yeah, your thoughts? Do we have an upset on the cards, or can Chelsea see this through and make a final?
I think Chelsea can see it through and make it to the final. Look, Fluminense have had a very great run, a brilliant run. They shouldn't have been here. Last season, they finished with 4 points above the relegation zone in the Brazilian league. Coming into the tournament, they ranked 6th in the Brazilian league. So they shouldn't have made it this far. But it's a tournament, and they've had a brilliant run and so far, and that's how come they are playing in the semi-final. But I think they've pretty much exhausted themselves. They've played 70 games so far this season. Their bench isn't that deep.
Maybe that's why they have 16 wingers.
Yeah. their bench isn't as deep as compared to Chelsea's, and you can tell that Chelsea have just that extra leg that they can kick in, or extra level that they can go to should this game travel to extra time. And we saw that in their game against Benfica in the round of 16. Once they made it beyond the 90 minutes regulation time, Benfica was just exhausted, and they just didn't have anything to push back against Chelsea, and that's how come Chelsea ended up winning by 4-1. And I see the same thing happening with Fluminense, where they will be a very difficult defensive team to break down, but Chelsea have too deep a squad to not be able to send wave after wave after wave of sustained attack against this Fluminense team to break it down. So I see Chelsea managing to go through to the final, but I'm hoping that they end up meeting PSG, then we can get to see.
Made and show Chelsea a few things.
Yeah. We can get to see if
Test
they are
if they
really,
are really
up
up
there.
there.
Yeah, if they are really up there.
I just want to just harp on something Gabby said to finish off the Chelsea conversation. I really want to see what Enzo Maresca does with Cole Palmer. Now, we've seen him in back-to-back seasons where he's really cooked in the first 20 games, and then he's gone on vacation before even the second round of the league begins. Now, as a coach, you must have studied the patterns. You must have studied the players' tendencies, how opponents are, marking him or preparing for him. I really want to see that, what they do with Cole Palmer when he stops scoring. How do you get him involved so he can, turn assister or provider for the team? All of that. But let's finish off finally with basketball. Let me just get your thoughts on this one, Yao. Paulo Banchero, 5-year, 287 million rookie extension, eye-popping cash, worth the money?
Oh yes, definitely worth the money. It's not surprising. And no wonder, or little wonder, it didn't necessarily generate news out there, because when you have a guy perform to this level, the way that Paulo Banchero has performed, and he gets handed this amount of money in contract extension, it's more or less like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He's
a franchise player.
It's a franchise player, business as usual kind of a dealing. Yeah. It's not something that's a shock or out of the blue that would get people talking. And so for me, totally deserved. Paulo Banchero was a bit of a surprise number one pick for me, because it was in the lead up to that draft, it was between Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith Jr.
Stand out to be better than Smith.
Yeah, he stand out to be better than all of them.
Actually,
and all three are good. Yeah. But he stand out to be way better than all of them. And the crazy part is the Orlando Magic, he didn't even work out with the Orlando Magic. They just steady tape on him.
And they said, this is our guy.
And it came at the last hour, just before the draft.
Because he was not projected to go number one.
Yeah. And they just went in there and they drafted him. And so far, he has been an excellent player. And just a little bit on that connection to this subject. In recent times, after he got that extension, I've seen comparisons between him and Jalen Williams, J-Dub of the Oklahoma City Thunder, because they were in the same draft class. And the same feeling over here. I just couldn't believe it. Like, J-Dub is a very fine young player, but look, let's not do this. Just the fact that he's won a championship does not mean that he's a better player than Paulo Banchero.
And it's easy to be a good player when you play along SGA, but can you be the guy when you are the main
pillar
of the opponent's
franchise player? Yes, and this guy is doing everything. He's bringing the ball up the court. It got to a point in last season's playoffs where you could tell that this guy was tired. He was, because he was doing everything. He's rebounding, he's scoring, he's defending, and he's the one bringing up the ball up the court and setting up the offense. No, that's the reason why they went and got Tyus Jones this offseason. And so this guy, he's absolutely box office, and it's funny how every time everything he does, he still flies under the radar. He's one of the most underrated young players in
Orlando
in the game, and I think it's because of how well-rounded his game style is. He's not flying high-flying dunker. He's not too much
just
of a
fundamentally sound player who does everything.
Exactly, he's not too much of volume 3-point shooter. Those kind of things. He's not crossing over people. That catches people's eyes. He's just like Jason Tatum. Well-rounded, fundamental, textbook, grounded kind of game, and that's why he doesn't get too much of the limelight. On top of that, he plays in Orlando, so it's granted. But let's not do this. He is a better player at this stage of their careers than Jalen Williams, and he totally, absolutely deserves that $285 million extension.
So big money for Paulo Banchero, much justified, according to Yaya Jemita. Hopefully, I think Banchero can get more hype if he starts making deep runs into the postseason. Because Anthony Edwards has the attitude and personality for it, but even he has had to earn his stripes by making deep runs into the postseason with the Timberwolves. Because minus that, nobody really cares about the Timberwolves, to be honest. Yeah,
and I think this season, this upcoming season, I think he will get it. And if injuries don't bother him, if injuries don't bother him, because that's what affected him last season. He just played 45 games, and he was on an absolutely brilliant run, before he suffered that oblique injury, and that forced him to miss quite an extensive number of games. And so he really couldn't even improve on his stats that much. And even with that, he averaged 23 points per game. And so it just shows you how good this guy is. And now that they've acquired Desmond Bain, shooting guard, who's a defensive guy.
Still have Jalen Suggs?
Jalen Suggs,
And got injured as well in the playoffs. So not there.
And I think that's a good move they made by bringing in Tyus Jones, because Jalen Suggs is good,
but he's not a natural point guard.
But he's not a natural point guard, and he doesn't give you a lot of top level production from that point position. Tyus Jones will give you that, not necessarily in terms of eye catching and eye popping numbers, but in terms of setting up an offense, and getting everyone in the right position to be able to score and do so efficiently. And that's what Paolo Banchero needs right now. Someone who can handle the game, who can read the game, and be able to run the offense the right way. And once you have Wendell Carter Jr. playing alongside him, Franz Wagner also in there, and you brought in Desmond Bain, this is a team that should make it to the second round of the playoffs. If they don't make it, I will be very, very disappointed, especially looking at how the Eastern Conference is set up with all these injuries. Jason Tatum with the Boston Celtics, Damian Lillard has left the Milwaukee Bucks, Tyrese Haliburton, now the president of the Pacers, has confirmed that he's not playing next season. So that also leaves it wide open.
Well, big shout outs to Abdul Rahman Said, who's been watching us from Facebook. He says he's been watching from Bimbilla. Big shout outs to Karis, who's been on the YouTube, basically dropping comments all over. Sweet Kwame says, where is Pichichi? Sweet Kwame, are you serious right now? He says we miss Pichichi. You mean Santiago Pichi? He was up to a few things a few days ago. I texted him and he was up to a few things. He said, hey, no, you let me leave it today. Anyway, big shout outs to Yaya Jamita. Big shout outs to you, Gabi Affair, as well. And Benjamin Nketiah has been absolutely amazing coming your way with this City Sports Special. Same time in the next couple of days. You never know. You catch us here doing the same thing. Until then, bye bye.